Nathan, a seasoned hiker who knew the woods like the back of his hand, had always been drawn to the wild. The call of the untamed forest, the whisper of the wind through the trees, and the rustle of leaves underfoot were music to his ears. He found solace and a sense of belonging in the heart of nature, far away from the hustle and bustle of city life. Being in nature brought him immense joy. The serenity of the forest, the chirping of birds, and the sight of animals in their natural habitat filled him with a profound sense of peace. He also had a passion for photography, capturing the beauty of the wild through his lens. Each click of his camera was a moment frozen in time, a memory to be cherished. Nathan had set his sights on a challenging yet thrilling goal: to photograph the elusive grey wolves of Black Pine Ridge in British Columbia. This area was known for its rugged terrain and dense forests, making it the perfect habitat for these shy creatures. He spent hours meticulously planning his trip, studying maps and gathering information about the wolves' habits and movements. His backpack was packed to the brim with essential gear, including food, water, and camping supplies. His camera bag, which he carried with great care, held his best Canon camera, along with several lenses and other photography equipment. He was prepared for the long journey ahead, ready to face any challenges that might come his way. As he ventured into the tall, thick forest, the cool, crisp air filled his lungs, and the refreshing scent of pine trees enveloped him. The forest was alive with the sounds of nature, the rustling of leaves, the distant call of a bird, and the gentle babbling of a nearby stream. Each step he took brought him deeper into the heart of the wilderness. Bits of sunlight filtered through the dense canopy of leaves, casting a dappled pattern on the forest floor. Nathan felt a surge of excitement and anticipation. He was on a mission, and the thought of encountering the wolves in their natural habitat filled him with a sense of purpose and determination. He knew that the wolves roamed this part of the woods. He had seen their paw prints on previous hikes, a silent testament to their presence. This time he was determined to find them, to capture their essence through his camera lens. The thrill of the chase and the promise of discovery spurred him on. Days turned into nights as Nathan continued his quest. He set up camp in a secluded spot, cooking simple meals over a crackling campfire. The nights were filled with the sounds of the forest, the hoot of an owl, the rustle of nocturnal creatures, and the whisper of the wind through the trees. He listened intently, hoping to catch the distant howl of a wolf. During his journey, he encountered a variety of wildlife. He saw graceful deer grazing in the meadows, cunning foxes darting through the underbrush, and a myriad of birds flitting from tree to tree. Each sighting was a reminder of the rich biodiversity of the forest and the delicate balance of nature. Despite his efforts, the wolves remained elusive. But Nathan was not disheartened. He knew that patience was key in the wild. He spent hours quietly observing the forest, waiting for the perfect moment. The anticipation only heightened his resolve. Determined to succeed, Nathan decided to venture even deeper into the woods, closer to the wolves' territory. He could feel that he was getting closer, that the culmination of his efforts was within reach. The lure of the wild was strong, and he was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Nathan stumbled upon a small, forgotten town at the edge of the woods. The place seemed almost frozen in time, with overgrown vegetation reclaiming the streets and buildings. It was as if nature was slowly erasing the memory of this place. He needed supplies for his journey. The only store in sight was a small general store that looked like it hadn't seen a customer in years. He pushed the creaky door open and stepped inside. The interior was dimly lit and covered in a thick layer of dust. Shelves were cluttered with items that seemed to have been there for decades. Behind the counter sat an old man with sharp eyes that seemed to pierce through the gloom. The old man looked up, clearly surprised to see Nathan. "You shouldn't be out there, son," he said, his voice low and serious, carrying a weight of warning that sent a shiver down Nathan's spine. Nathan raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued. "Just passing through," he replied, trying to sound casual, though the old man's tone had unsettled him. "This land, it ain't safe," the old man repeated, his voice tinged with urgency. "Especially not for folks like you, wandering around in the dark parts. There are things out there that you don't want to meet." Nathan's curiosity grew stronger. "What do you mean, what's out there?" he asked, leaning in slightly, eager to hear more. The old man leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "The Whisperer. They say it roams these woods, a shadow that moves with the wind. It preys on those who wander too far. Be careful, son. Some say it's just a legend, but they've seen it, and they never come back the same. Nathan didn't listen to the old man. The elder had warned him about the forest, saying it was no place for the unprepared. But Nathan, confident and dismissive, brushed off the cautionary words. He believed the old man was just trying to scare him with tales of the unknown. He thought it was just a story, a myth passed down to keep people away. Nathan had always been skeptical of such tales, thinking they were just figments of overactive imaginations. He went deeper into the forest, determined to prove the old man wrong. The deeper he ventured, the more the forest seemed to close in around him, the trees growing denser and the path less clear. As the sun went down, the forest changed. The vibrant greens of the leaves turned to shadowy silhouettes, and the once welcoming path now seemed ominous and foreboding. Long shadows stretched out from the trees. The air got cold. The warmth of the day was replaced by a chilling breeze that sent shivers down Nathan's spine. He pulled his jacket tighter around him, trying to ward off the growing sense of unease. The forest felt alive, but in a scary way. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig seemed amplified in the silence. It was as if the forest was watching him, waiting for something. Nathan made camp by a stream, ate quickly, and went into his tent. He tried to shake off the feeling of being watched, convincing himself it was just his imagination playing tricks on him. He felt like he was being watched. The sensation was so strong that he kept glancing over his shoulder, expecting to see someone or something lurking in the shadows. He lay awake, listening to the forest. Every sound seemed magnified in the darkness. The gentle flow of the stream, the rustling of leaves, the distant call of an owl, all seemed to blend into a symphony of unease. The wind blew through the leaves, an owl hooted. The night was alive with sounds, each one adding to Nathan's growing sense of dread. A twig snapped. He froze. His heart pounded in his chest as he strained to hear any other sounds. The silence that followed was deafening. He slowly unzipped his tent and looked into the dark. Nothing seemed strange. The forest was still, almost too still, as if it was holding its breath. He told himself it was just an animal, but he felt scared. The rational part of his mind tried to calm him, but the primal fear gnawed at him, making it hard to relax. He knew he wouldn't get much sleep that night. The next morning, something scary woke him up. Huge footprints were all around his camp. They weren't like anything he'd seen before. They looked like a person's feet, but much, much bigger. They were pressed deep into the ground, like a very heavy creature had walked there. Nathan felt a chill. He remembered the old man's warning, the whisperer. He looked closely at the prints and followed them. They led deeper into the forest. He felt scared, but also excited. He had to know what made those prints. The trees grew thicker, blocking the sunlight. The air was damp and smelled like rotten things. The footprints went on and on. He followed them for hours, feeling more and more uneasy. He was going into a place he didn't know. Gap 2S. Then he heard it. A low growl. It made him shiver. It was close. He stopped and listened, holding his breath. The growl came again, louder this time, and closer. He knew something was hunting him. He started running. He needed to hide. He found a small clearing. In the middle was a huge old tree. Its branches were twisted and creepy. He hid behind the tree, holding his breath. Then he saw it. A huge, hairy figure came out of the trees. It was tall and strong, covered in thick fur. Its eyes glowed. It looked around the clearing and sniffed the air. It was looking for him. Nathan knew he was in trouble. The creature turned its head and looked right at him. Nathan felt its eyes on him. He panicked, jumped up, and ran. He could hear the creature crashing through the trees behind him. It was getting closer. He didn't look back. He ran until he couldn't breathe, until his legs felt weak. He tripped and fell, gasping for air. He thought he was going to die, but the creature didn't attack. He slowly sat up and looked around. He was alone. It was gone. He went back to town, tired and scared. He told the old man what happened. The old man listened calmly. He didn't seem surprised. "I told you, son," he said. "This land ain't safe. You're lucky to be alive." Nathan left the store, got in his car and drove away. He never looked back. He went home a different person. He couldn't forget the whisperer. He felt like it was still out there, watching him, waiting. He tried to forget what happened, but he couldn't. The whisperer was in his dreams. He wondered what it was. Was it a real animal, or was it something else, something worse? He would never know, but he knew one thing. He would never go back to Black Pine Ridge. The wilderness had too many secrets, and some secrets are better left alone.